she played. It turned into like this really inclusive, dynamic, we were all people. We were all connecting on a human level.
Yeah.
And I think that's where again the passion and like in what we do really works, because I think, you know, people can also sense, like the community can sense when you're not being genuine. And I think that's sometimes those are some of the barriers too, right? That this line of work isn't cut out for everybody. You really have to have that passion, maybe the lived experience that it really takes for you to try to, you know, relate and make some of these things work. But I do think it's been not a challenge, but there was a lot of work, right? There's a lot of hurdles we had to climb over to make some of these groups a success, revamping some of the groups. Like, I'm super proud to announce that we just relaunched our youth group, and now it's with a Montebello Art Academy. It's a group of students. They're running the group. We're supporting them. It's really, really great. They're very enthusiastic about it. They have a huge amount of students participating. And like Evelyn said, our senior groups are running really well. I was just asked if we could do a collaborative with one of the providers for a tech class. And I said, yes, we just have to figure out, you know, when and how, but there's a lot going on. I think Evelyn said, like, one of our things right now is that, you know, we're a mighty team of 3, right?
Yes.
We're a mighty team of 3, but we're gonna grow. The program's gonna grow. It's like with everything, it takes a little bit of time.
I think a lot of it about the growing and stuff. When we initially started, there was a lot of can we do this, can we not? Where it was kind of like in between, like, what are we gonna do? But then as we started listening to the community, listening to what we can do and what we're able to provide to the community, I think that's where it started growing even more. Like, we started getting requests for like a parent group. So then we went ahead and started that with a peer group, like just peers in general, not necessarily parents, but peers overall. So then we got that going. And like, you know what, we want a technology group. So we're like, hey, we could do that. Yeah. So we started that. We started with our healing arts groups. And it just continues to grow, you know, and I think the amazing thing is that it keeps coming, like the feedback keeps coming of like, what is it that the community needs and what they like seeing out there. They like seeing that we're out there in the community. We connect with them on a peer level, as opposed to like, I'm superior to you or any of that. No, we connect on like, we're all equal. We all come from, you know, same community, same dynamics, similar dynamics. You know, like, let's provide and be equal with each other, as opposed to kind of talking down to them or like this and that. No, like at the end of the day, I think that's the biggest thing of like being able to listen to them and being able to be empathetic with them and not be judgmental with them. I think that's one of the biggest keys, like, within, because a lot of times, like, I interact also, like, aside from here, like on the weekend, I interact with them, like being centered at a location, you know, having mental health situations, crisis and stuff like that, and their biggest thing is like, you're not judging me, like, you're just talking to me like you're my friend, like, you're not my friend, but like, you're talking to me like you're my friend, and I'm like, well, why wouldn't I? Like, why am I gonna talk to you bad? And I think that's the biggest thing, you know, that connection and that, like, being able to connect with them in a different level, as opposed to like, oh, I'm the staff and you're gonna listen to what I'm gonna tell you, as opposed to like, no, I hear you, I'm listening to you.
That's the key thing that I think, you know, like, even with the benefit, one of the benefits of having peers is, like, you're taking it like, well, why wouldn't I talk to you that way? But I mean, take a step back, and even just that interaction right there, it's critical, because I think so many people that have been involved in our system are used to being talked to. They're used to being told what their diagnosis is, what medications they need to take, when they need to show up for their appointments. They're used to being given directives. And one of the unique things of having peers, I think the benefit has been, is that you're talking with, not you're talking to. And you're able to speak with them and talk with them and engage with them because you understand them. you've been there,
Yeah.
you are there,
Mhm.
you understand where they're at, and it's one of those situations. Even when I was a supervisor and talking with clinicians, it's like you need to understand the role, not just sitting on this side of the table. You need to understand where your clients
Yep.
that's sitting on that side of the table is as well.
Definitely.
And just like, I think to a certain extent, I think we as a system take it for granted, but obviously even you're doing it,
Yeah.
but you're like, if you kind of really just listen to what that person was telling you, the interaction is very different simply because of the way you approach it. And you can't
Yeah.
teach that.
Yeah, that
In
is very
school.
true.
You can't get, you can't major and get a doctorate or a graduate degree in how to connect and speak with people.
Yeah.
It's, that is something that it's a skill that I think it's our system, and I speak for like obviously DMH but specifically for our service area. Like what you're doing and what the peer staff are doing is it's injected like really, for lack of a better term, it was like an adrenaline shot.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the changes in our system.
Yeah.
I was just at the SALT meeting last week. I was talking to someone, and we were reflecting of where the service area was 6 years ago and where we're at
Yeah.
now, and even just the culture has shifted.
Yeah.
Where
It
it
has.
was, that meeting used to be a lot about what we need, what is DMH going to do, and like that SALT meeting was very much about a celebration of where we are and gratefulness and thankfulness, and it's been a complete shift.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that is because of the services that are being provided. We were intentional in bringing folks on board that have lived experience, right? But you're seeing that now across, it's not just at the PRC. When we're looking at vacancies at our clinics, even in my admin unit,
Yeah.
one of the things is we're looking to fill some vacancies in the admin unit. I'm working with Carlos, the supervisor. It's like, it's not a requirement that they have lived experience to be in this supervisory role or in this like a community health worker role.
Yeah.
But I want someone
with
with lived experience.
Yes.
So this is something, we need that, because we even need peers involved at the PRCs, at our clinics, whether it's an adult, a child program, in our admin units
Yes.
as well. Because there's definitely a benefit to it, and I think it's, like I said, it's that adrenaline shot that our system needed, and now that we got it, I'm also just like, we need to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
Let's get that momentum going. And I think the community's being responsive. Like I said, it's that you all have been a part of that just culture shift for our service area in bringing just a new perspective and a needed perspective really into our system. It's benefited, I think, again, our system, but I think so much more from the community, because I see it. I see it walking in here.
Yeah.
I see it where your good buddy and his mom seen them the other day walking here, and this
They're
is
awesome.
somebody who was nonverbal, who
Oh, yeah.
was isolated, who literally would kind of be dragged by his own parent,
Yeah.
and would make it a point to sit clear across the park so he wouldn't have to interact with us.
Yeah.
Now this is the person who I literally walk up the door and gets up, walks up to me, shakes my
Hi.
hand.
Yes.
He's front and center.
Yeah, and it's just, but again, seeing that kind of progress.
Yes.
Had the PRC not been here,
It would have been very different.
where would he be?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna echo something you said, and like with my experience. So prior to me joining the department, right? There was like a stigma that the department was very cold, and so like what I attribute to like Evelyn is that they brought that grassroots movement, and they would be like, this is what we used to do at a provider, and I'd be like, yeah, I remember that. We could do that. Just let me check in. And so we started to do a lot of grassroots things that, it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of work to change how people feel about us and help them kind of join our groups, right? No one's judging you here. You can talk about
Yes.
anything. And You co-facilitate the men's group with me. You've seen some of the breakthroughs that have
Yeah.
happened in that group are amazing.
Yeah.
There have been individuals, there were people who would not talk, who are now just little chatterboxes.
I guess.
And
Well, we
they-
have new members coming in and sometimes having issues, and these same individuals are the ones that now step in
Yes.
and are
And help
the
out
voices
little
of
ones.
reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're more like, okay,
Sit back,
so
yeah.
sit back and let them, and that's ultimately what we wanted.
what we wanted.
Yeah.
And I, you know, like I still remember, like just rewinding back in my head to when we had those discussions. You know, being able to develop unique programming for the community, but also with the perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like I think I always used to say to you, like a lot of these things I conceptualize with my mom or my tias in mind, right? Because my mom was not phone literate and she could not text, so I would think, how can we make these things easier? As it is, shout out to Vincent. Vincent's one of our new staff. He's shy today, but he's actually taken on reinventing our calendar, which we used to share all the time. So we've been working together on blasting that out. And the intention for that calendar was to give those community members who have difficulty with access a way to more easier find out where our groups are at, where we are in person, how to show up, So I think it's been a lot of work, like administratively,
It's been a lot.
just line work, right? The other day, true story, we partnered up with the admin unit. As you know, now we're partnering up with almost every
Every
of
department.
yeah. So we, Erica, shout out to Erica. She was
Yeah.
doing one of her clergy roundtables,
Oh yeah.
and it turned out that I guess the day before that church had a huge event, and so when we walked into the church,
It was full of donations.
it was. So what did we do?
We
put
cleaned
down
up.
our bags and we cleaned up. We started putting everything away. We made a space for her to have her meeting
Yeah.
because she was busy setting up. But I think my point to it is that we're hands-on. There's a lot of administrative roles that we've taken on,
Yeah.
but we don't shy back. Like even Erica made a joke the other day, because we always say things like, "Oh, I sweep, I do the windows, and I mop too."
Yeah.
And she told me that the other day she picked up a broom, and one of the community members said, "You really do sweep," and she's like, "Oh yeah, I do." She started cleaning.
Yes.
But I think it's part of that passion that we bring. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, work is work, and sometimes it can be frustrating for everybody. And there are days that you'd prefer to be asleep in bed. But I think coming into the office and doing the work we do really does. It's really fulfilling, and it helps us come back with more passion, and it helps us come back with like new ideas, right? Or new ways, new approaches.
I think it's just been overall growing with the PRC, seeing the PRC grow, at least our PRC, what I've seen, it's amazing. It's amazing the opportunities that have came up for me and for the team, learning new activities that we didn't know, learning the financial part of it.
Losing your fear.
Losing my fear on that. It's been amazing, to be honest. A lot of PRCs I know have like ITCs, have like all kinds of stuff that handle that piece, but being able to provide that support to Jaime and the team on like learning that financial piece, learning on how to like do all like the ordering stuff, requesting quotes and stuff like that, outreaching to the community, getting our community involved in like our groups and stuff, aside from like, hey, they're a vendor, but you know what, they want to be part of the like groups, they want to be contributing to the community. Like, it's been amazing. It's been crazy.
I'm gonna have to interrupt you. I remember the first time Evelyn said to me, "I'm gonna get them vendorized," and I said, "Okay," and then she did. I got them vendorized, and then another one. How many? Well, wait. Let me rephrase this. How many local community vendors have you gotten vendorized?
I lost count, but for sure I have about 10, and they're like within our service area.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily been like, oh, I want to get you vendorized type of thing, but it's been more of like, they join our stuff, like, hey, we are like a business out here, we provide X, Y, and Z. So, and then like, hey, maybe, I think keeping it local and to our service area, I think has been the biggest thing, as opposed to going like branching out and like having it like way out of our service area. They're willing to be there with the community, participate in the community, and it's all within our service area. And I think that was my biggest thing of having our vendors and everything be part of the community.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, like, a lot of these vendors want to let us participate. Some of them even like tell us like, my business is open, like you could do
Use the space.
use the space, like
Please.
it's free of charge, like you just come and do it for the
Which,
community,
when
whatever
do you
it is.
hear a business like they're willing to close their business or part
Yes.
of their business, which
Correct.
would generate revenue for them
Yeah.
in order to be able to allow us to just use the space for free,
And
Right.
right? It's that commitment.
Yeah.
you know what's funny about it, Evelyn, I'm sure you've seen this too, but you know, these partners, I'll call them partners that we have, are community members
Yes,
themselves.
definitely.
And they have either lived experience or family with lived experience.
What a
Mhm.
concept, huh?
You know,
Yeah.
it is so cool because I think for me that's what like excites me. That it's like we're really helping our community in one way or another.
Mhm.
And you know, I always say that we can't fix the world's ailments, right? We can't solve everything, but we're making an impact in Service Area 7, and I think that's a
Yeah.
huge deal. Like for me, that's bragging rights. You know, like
Oh, yeah.
like we work within the service area, and again, I remember some of the stigma that was associated with the department from when I was with a provider,
Mhm.
and it was you know, remember when I first came on board. There was things that were said, and that was the reason I took on the challenge of developing the website. Remember when I first said, when I think you said to me, you can do that, I said, yeah, I can do that. But my point is that it all stemmed from wanting to change that view that people had of our system to have more people engage. It's a win-win. If you rebrand, people will look at it different. If you really come with compassion and you care, people will engage in our services.
Yeah.
And we can reduce recidivism with the groups.
Yeah.
There's so many things we can do.
It you know, funny story. When
love
we
funny
first
stories.
when we first started with the PRC, when we were meeting with the community, they're like, "Oh no, it's para locos." Those are the crazies. And I was like, "No, why? No, you're with the department. We don't want to talk about." And I was like, "No, I was like, we're all the same." I was like, "We all just talking. Like, you want to join?" No, pero si vas a hablar de los locos, so you're gonna come talk about crazy, I don't want to join. And I'm like, no. I was like, yeah, it has nothing to do with that. I was like, you know, we're just here to provide that extra support, you know, to be there for you and be a listening ear, you know, and if you need any help or any resources, like, we're able to provide that to you at no cost. Like, we're able to give you the information that you might need and stuff like that. And the funny thing is that in many of our groups, we see that now. Before, they're like, oh no, I wouldn't go into a group because that's mental health, like I don't want to hear it. But now they're like, oh no, like we have some of our seniors recruiting other seniors, like, hey, come to the group, like we're gonna be having a support group, like you need to join, like we're here every Monday, we're here every Tuesday, like this is our group, like you need to come and join us. And it's not about like, oh, like I have depression, I have this. We do talk about the topics, but now they're more open to participating in it. They're more open to seeking those services. We have a couple of our members that try to join every group, and they follow us from Norwalk to here to the other centers, and I'm just like, wait, weren't you? She's like, oh yeah, but I heard you guys have it over here today, so and it goes with the mobile.
It's like the service, like the Service Area 7 PRC is on tour, and our participants come from wherever they are to come to what we're doing.
Yeah.
But it's
You have groupies now.
Yeah.
We do.
True.
It's funny we do, because everywhere they're here, like, hey, you're having this, you're having that, they end up showing up, which is, and sometimes we ask, like, hey, like, what draws you to it? You know what? One, it draws us, like, you're not treating us differently. We are getting the support we need. We are getting the services we need from the department. But the fact that you guys are welcoming, welcoming with not judging us or any of that, I think it draws them a lot, you know, having all the services available, and then them being able to share these services with their families, because sometimes they're like, oh, well, I need something. I know recently came up, like, we need something like on autism, and I was like, hey, we could bring these resources to you, you know, we could even, like, you know, discuss them and stuff like that, have a presenter that would discuss these issues and stuff. Okay, we're open to it. You know, talking about like the clergy and stuff, like we've had a lot of involvement with that. That they're like, hey, we're having this, so we'll share our events with them and everything. They're like, okay, we want to participate, we want to go, and they'll start discussing it. The school stuff, the same thing. Like they will start discussing, like, this is what we need. Can we get more of it? And stuff like that. I think that has been the biggest thing, and just, you know, being able to be that asset to the community and providing all this information and stuff has been very, very nice. And lately, I think the topic has been like, when are you guys having a next event? Because you guys bring the resources, you guys have food, and then you guys have fun. So which one is it?
Well, you know,
Sorry, not to cut you off, but just I know we dove right into the conversations, but I have, as I'm looking down at our
there was actual questions.
well, no, one of the things, before we even get to the questions, the very first point, I don't think we actually allowed our guest to introduce herself.
That's true.
So, I mean, this is a great conversation, and
Don't allow us
we're
to
highlighting
mention
all the work, but I sure don't want the folks who are watching this at home to be like, so who is this? It's like, so please, if you can introduce yourself.
So I'm Evelyn Salas. I'm with the Peer Research Center with Service Area 7. I'm a community health worker. I've been with the department for going on 3 years now, but I've been with the outside sector, providing resources with nonprofits, and honestly just doing what we can to provide to the community. I think a lot of it had to do with driving myself to doing this type of work was knowing that these resources could be given to the community as opposed to not knowing where it's at, because a lot of times we don't hear about it, we don't know where these resources are at. And I think that was my biggest thing. Years ago I completely changed my my career. So I was in a medical career. I went to nursing school, I got my licenses, I got my pharmacy technician license and everything, but there was an incident where there was a mental health crisis in my family. One of my family members committed suicide, and we were really close, and it changed my completely dynamic of everything. So it changed everything to leading towards, I need to be out there and providing these resources to the community, because a lot of times we don't hear about it. Mm-hmm. And breaking the stigma that a lot of our community, a lot of our families say, no quiero que lo diagnostiquen, no quiero que sepan que tiene enfermedades. I don't want a diagnosis. I don't want them to know that he's sick. I don't want him to know that he's getting services. So I think that really drove me into this field, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I'm really passionate about, you know, providing those resources and letting them know that they're out there. To try to help the community, you know, of avoiding this. Like, it's okay if we have some sort of, you know, mental health diagnosis, or we need a little bit more support. Because it's not necessarily a diagnosis, it's more, we just need a little bit more help, or somebody there to help us, lead us through the way or anything. And I think that was one of my biggest passion of shifting my career.
Yeah, no, that it's been amazing, because I mean, I know, you know, when you really take a step back, have any person, you know, who can say that they've never been impacted or touched by mental health or substance abuse. Mm-hmm. We all have.
Yep.
We all have. But I think part of it is also just on, you know, like what you were sharing about your experience. I mean, mm-hmm. You took something that was tragic, a terrible loss, but that gave you the inspiration, the meaning that drove you, and then the work that you've since been doing. I know, especially as I've seen you grow with the Peer Resource Center. Mm-hmm. Think about just like even the young man I referenced earlier, how many lives you have saved because of just you being you. Yeah. Right? And it's like you've had such a positive impact on individuals, on families, on our staff, like I said, referenced earlier, on our system in doing that. And the reality is that we've benefited from you being a part of our team, and you know, we're even as we're doing this. I mean, you know, I was talking, I think earlier in the week with Jaime, and I was like, it's amazing to see where you started off with going out, meeting with people, getting people involved and getting them like, come to this group, to then sitting behind the camera.
I know.
Now how we reference Vincent being back then, referencing you, and you know, now having you here in front of the camera, but also, I mean, still having that one-on-one impact with the individuals, with groups and families, but even now more so, and I don't know if you see it, but taking a step back, the macro level work that you're doing in you know, like you were saying earlier, some of the obstacles was learning the whole financial piece of it, but you did that because you're capable of doing that. And by you doing that, you've brought resources to so many more community members. And being able to not just use, like even with the vendors, like Jaime was referencing earlier, identifying vendors who are from our community. And I know it's something like, oh, these are community vendors, they're from our community, by our community. But as like even from a manager's perspective, you helped bridge that partnership between the public sector, which is us, and the private sector, which are the private businesses. Because the reality is that, you know, this impacts our entire society.
Definitely.
And it can't be resolved just by the Department of Mental Health. You know, it can't be resolved by, it takes, like that saying, it takes a village, it takes a community. And you're a part of that solution in bringing those private partners in who historically would have nothing to do with mental health, but are now hosting mental health events at their restaurants, at the different agencies that they have.
Lining up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But asking, like, we want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Where, think about the level of, like, just shifting and reducing stigma, where before we had, people wanted to have nothing to do with mental health, like you were saying, right? Like, so, trabajan con los loquitos. It's like, and we're having to, like, okay, we have people from all public, private, just, we want to engage with you all. How can we be a part of what you all are doing? But I think it's the community is seeing the benefit of all of this, and you know, I know there's been a lot of barriers along the way, because it's not like we're talking about right now the highlights and all the great work, but even all along, like
there's barriers, and there continue to be barriers, but
we had to build to this.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, we had it took a lot of work, and I'm curious, like even as in your role as a peer, you know, what were some of those barriers? Because I think for other folks who may be watching this, who want to start up peer services, and like even for someone like myself who's looking to want to expand, like, so, you know, from your perspective, I'm curious as far as like maybe what were some of the barriers that you had to, and maybe you're still seeing some of those.
I think a lot of it, it changes on the, let's say on the day to day, I guess. So every day looks different. But at the beginning, we had a vision for the PRC. Initially, it was like, okay, well, it was a little bit more stationary because we were under a different leadership that was helping us, guide us through it. But it was more the clinical piece only, but not the peer piece. And it was like, wait, but it's the peer resource center. Like, we needed that peer piece there. And then it was a lot of like, when we were trying to, you know, there's these groups and stuff like that. It was like, oh, well, no, the name has to be like this. But I'm like, but the community's not gonna respond to it. They're not gonna understand what that means. I kid you not, I remember clearly one of my groups, I want to say I did it like 10 times my flyer. Denied it all 10 times because the name wasn't what they wanted it to be. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to put now. I'm like, let me know what you want to put, and then we'll go from there. Because I was like, I know the community's not going to respond.
Okay.
Like, they're not going to understand what that word means or anything. I don't even understand it, and I speak Spanish.
Yeah.
I was like, and I don't understand what you're trying to tell me, like, in this flyer. I was like, so I don't know what to expect on it. And then we got our supervisor, Jaime, here, and I was like, he's like, hey, do you want? I was like, well, I've been trying to start this one. I was like, but I'm still pending because it's getting kicked back.
Yeah.
And he laughed. He's all like, but why? Just do it. I was like, well, I did this name. It was a little bit more simple, but you know, they denied. He's like, no, that's good. And I think, you know, I think him coming from that sector also and knowing the level like of a peer as well, I think that's something really big. To be able to understand the peer perspective, the community perspective, the need of it, I think that has been the biggest barrier, because at times we do have where it's more of like the higher levels and like, no, it's supposed to be like this, and it's a like distinction on the connection. I think that was one of the main barriers. which at times do come up and stuff, but it's a learning curve, it's a learning process, I think, on a day-to-day basis, and being able to adapt to the changes that come, because there's always changes, there's always different stuff that comes up, but it's being able to adapt to it and kind of work with, all of us as a team, like, hey, I know you want it like this, but I think this might work a little bit better, so where can we meet in the middle, at least? So I think that has been one of the biggest barriers that I have seen, but we do have a lot of support. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Jaime. So it does work out, and then we do have a lot of the team that does help out. I think at the moment, we do have a really small team, which we've always had a small team, but I think the demand that we're having right now is very significant, that it kind of puts us in the middle because we don't have the staff capability at the moment. We do borrow staff. Thank you.
We've been able to get creative, right?
Yeah, so we do
have
get
a
creative. We do have a volunteer. She is amazing. Shout out to Maria. So she is amazing. She really helps us out a lot. She loves it.
And you could see it reflected in her.
And her son.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
Not to cut you off, but you mentioned it to me, how you noticed the changes in her.
Oh yeah.
And it dawned on me the other day. Like, sometimes things hit me slowly, or it takes me a while to process, but I was like, whoa, like the impact. And again with her son. Her son's my little homie. Like you said, now he'll walk up to me, shakes my hand, how are you doing? And he's like front and center. The event's here, he's the first one here. He's like walking around more freely.
Yeah.
But I think, to Manny's point, I'll be very honest with you, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without Evelyn's support. And like, people say, oh, the service area PRC, it's really just 3 of us. But I feel like we work also we have a really good partnership with our directly operated clinics and the admin unit.
Yeah.
So like, even like Evelyn referenced, thanks for letting us borrow Erica and Myra, who have been essential to our groups. Now our community members know them, and like, they expect them to show up for group.
Yes.
Where is so and so? Where is so and so? Right? That's been awesome, and even partnering with the directly operated clinics like AICC, going to their events, getting the whole fatherhood thing going. That's a really big deal. I think, of course, I'm a dad. That's my huge passion, but like, you don't realize like all the work that goes in between.
Yeah.
And like I said, without Evelyn, I wouldn't be able to do that. Because if I'm wearing 30 hats, she's wearing 35, and it's like, she helps to keep me on task, and it's like, just realizing that you're an asset to the team, in my perspective, and like,
tremendously, yeah.
You're like one of the instrumental, or like a foundational pieces of the PRC. You were here before I even started, but I do remember the whole flyer thing. And I remember that was an impasse to the group. So like...
But I think that also speaks to maybe some of the evolution. I think that, like I was referencing within the service area, because I think I understand completely, like where, like,
of course.
And I recall what you're referencing. But I think also because the peer resource model was such a new concept.
Yes.
And especially for our system, where we've basically been coming out of a medical model, where it's like we're now taking this approach of we're bringing peers, and they're a part of every part of our system. They're at the front and in outreaching. They're in bringing in consumers and our clients in. They're part of the treatment teams. They're in the beginning and in the middle and in the end. It's like, we have now, like you were referencing, our outpatient clinics, whether they're directly operated or contracted, they're sending some of their clients to be a part of groups because they're all like, this would help support what we're doing at the clinic, but they need this additional support that our clinics aren't able to or aren't providing, but you are. And then at the end, also seeing clients that are now stepping down from some of the highest levels of care, who are like, it's a good thing, they're graduating, but they still need a little bit of support, and you want them to be able to check in. And so really seeing that, peer services throughout the span of treatment, from even when they're not, from outreach and engagement through graduation, having our peers be a part of it, and that needs to happen, and that's I think part of the evolution where our own system sometimes like as managers needing to be able to like just get out of the way, like you know we need to understand and take that perspective of understanding like again the role of peers and supporting that, and because it's part of it is providing the peer service, but you're also advocates.
And I think you said, you know, like getting out of the way, but it's more like empowering. To me, like I take it like I'm empowering Evelyn to like, you can do this. I'm empowering Vincent to like, you don't need me, you can do this. Of course we check in with each other, brainstorm, but it's more like you empowered me to take this role. Right? And so we're working together.
I'm more so assigned it to him.
You know what? But I think you bring up a really good point about being able to, not to be mean, but like sometimes taking that step back from upper management. Because I've seen it. I've seen it happen in certain areas and stuff where, you know, the community itself responds like, why aren't you sitting next to me? Or why aren't you, oh no, I'm not allowed to do that. And I'm very like, what do you mean you're not allowed? Hold on, let me go sit next to you. Or let me go eat my food with you. Like, I'm not, I think the biggest thing is being able to connect with them and not necessarily having that hierarchy like, you can't connect with them because you're staff and you're this. I understand I'm staff and I understand I'm having this boundary. However, I am part of the community. I am a peer myself, and we want to be inclusive. We want the community to feel that, you know, we're there for them. Like, they're not anything different. We're not anything different to them. Like, yes, we do carry a different role and stuff, but being able to connect with them and being able to be like, I'm human. Like, I'm able to connect with you as opposed to like, no, you're over here and we're over here. No, just being able to like, hey, like you said, empowering them to be able to be there with the community and be part of it, you know, and like you said, hey, you want some bread? You want some juice? Like, hey, we're here, as opposed to like, oh, no, I can't touch the juice, only you could and stuff, and it's like, wait, like, and I got asked, like, did you put something in my stuff that you don't want to eat it?
Just because you have one of these doesn't change who the person that you are. You know your role. So
I think that was the biggest thing I seen it happen. I was just like,
and I think I can understand like on the opposite perspective. It's a culture change. It's
it
you
is.
know, we've been, like you said, we're coming from a medical model to now like we're working with peers. And right, or like you said, sitting with the community. I love sitting with the community and just eating and talking. It's so like it's so grounding, right?
yes.
But I can definitely understand. You know, you've been doing this for years in a different role or a different like with a different setting or mentality, and then you're brought into this. It can be a little scary because any change is a little scary for people.
Absolutely, it's a culture shift. It really has been, and. You know, you all have heard me say this before. One of my favorite terms for years has been pivoting. We have to pivot, and that's the thing. It's sometimes you need to just take a moment and shift and change and adapt, and that's part of the process. And it's no fault. I think that's just how we've been doing it. Again, like I was saying, I've been with the department forever, and even having to like take this different approach, it's like, okay, we're going to do it. How do we go about doing it, right? And I'm somebody that buys into it. I believe in the concept and in the model, but even that, it's like having to take this model and make it fit into our system, right? And fortunately, I think I will say that, and I think it's part of the culture of our service area is that, you know, our service area is a very resilient community. You know, this region has gone with, you know, lack of services. We've had some of the worst situations. I mean, we were, again, going back to the pandemic, this was one of the regions that was most severely hit. We had some of the largest rates of fatalities in this region. But the community always pulled together, you know, and supported each other. And I think that's part of what also, as we've been pivoting, the community has also been adapting, both on the provider network and seeing like, wow, this is a great resource. Again, can we partner with you to do a group? But also from the community now, and like you were referencing with the seniors, and then being able to go to one of their seniors and say, you need help and you need to start coming to this group. Like, you're not having to do the outreach anymore. You have your own group members now who they're doing the outreach. They're now, again, you've taught them about looking out for certain symptoms, looking out for that. Even though in their mind, they're like, this has nothing to do with mental health. But it's become something that's more natural. And as it should be. But now they're also identifying their own peers who are like, you should come with me to this group because you might benefit from participating in a group, and that's amazing. That is amazing.
It is.
I say they have groupies because it's so funny, Manny. I will go to the other day. I wanted to reference this. The other day they had an event at the Norwalk Senior Center, and I remember when Evelyn first made that connection and started the partnership. It was a small group, it was decent size. I think you had like 6 people. I walked into a room of like 20, 30 seniors. I don't know how many seniors were in there. They're dancing, they're talking, they're bringing her food. It's interesting how much, like you said, the community has riled up behind what we're doing, and like they've connected so much with the group facilitators and even them facilitating conversations, really engaging. And to me, it's trippy because I come from the era where, like, a lot of the stigma, we don't talk about mental health. We all know your uncle talks to himself, just leave him alone, right? But I really do like see what you said too in terms of like the impact that we're making. I used to have the talk with somebody about how you might not have a caseload, but look at all the work you've done. Look at like you're affecting hundreds of people, maybe thousands.
Thousands in some instances,
Exactly. And it's like we don't see it, I think, because we're in it on a daily basis, right? But then when you do take a step back, you're like, whoa, this is interesting.
But even the progression, and you're seeing the services that you all have been providing, with the addition of you to the team, with the addition of Vincent, and being able to have that sense of connectiveness with the community. Because it's not just like, well, we have this core set of groups and this is all we do, and this is going to be our calendar of groups for the next year. It's been something that it's been an evolution. It's a living system where you've been able to, we do this group, it's successful or it's not. But then when you get to that point where it's like, okay, now we're going to pivot to something new, and we're seeing that even in the population. We're talking about the seniors, but even you mentioned earlier about the youth group. Take a step back. Look at the 2 groups that were most isolated during the pandemic. And it was the youth and our elderly population. And these were groups that, with the youth, they were more savvy with technology. So there was still a little bit of that connectiveness, although it was on a digital platform because everybody had to isolate. But there was still that lack of socialization, right? And then to be brought back for some students to have missed out school. I mean, I know even with the little ones, some of the kids who started pre-K and K, who were now going into first grade, but they had not learned how to tie their shoelaces because they missed all of that because they were doing remote learning. But more so than you had our seniors, who maybe weren't as technology savvy, but were also isolated because they were one of the most vulnerable populations, right? We couldn't go see any of our loved ones because if you accidentally coughed or breathed, they might might get sick and die, But coming out of that and then still having to have these 2 significant populations who are still feeling isolated, to now be the 2 populations that are most engaging in services.
It's amazing.
It is.
It really is amazing because you like hit it right on the point. We've seen it. I think one of the other biggest things that is growing is the men coming out. I think being able to provide those resources to the men, it is just amazing. I'm not a guy, but I remember the first time that you guys ran the men's group, I was like, let me check out the link. I got kicked out of the men's group. They kicked me out. They're like, you're not a guy, get out of here. And I was like, I'm just checking the link. You could have asked somebody else to check it. I was like, okay. I'm just checking the link. But I've had so many men come up to me like, hey, you know, where's your guys' group? Can we participate and stuff like that? Like it is just amazing of how much impact we're like Jaime says, we're small and mighty, but how much impact we've done to a variety of the population. Not just like seniors, not just youth, not just men, like not just women, not just mothers, like everybody in general. I think we've done a really big impact, and I think we continue to do it. I think that to me is just amazing of how much resources, how much stuff we've been able to provide to the community, how much other avenues by learning the new systems. We went through a hiccup, like we can't order anything, we don't have anything, Jaime, like what are we gonna do? I don't know. And then we started figuring it out. And then I was like, okay, I'll learn it. I was like, show me, we'll learn it. I was like, we'll learn together. Now even like sometimes our analysts like, hey Evelyn, do you know this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I did find out about that. Like, here you go, here's the info. So, you know, learning with everybody, being able to be open to communicate with other higher ups and stuff. To be honest, it was scary at the beginning. I'm like, I'm not gonna leave.
You know,
but he's like, go for it, you got this.
Yeah.
And which reminds me, Evelyn, I'm so glad you said that. I had a conversation with somebody else, and I asked a silly question, and they reminded me, there's peers at every level. There's managers, peers. There's I'm a supervisor, right? There's peers at every level. And you know, based on your experiences, the experiences for peers can be very different. We've all had different experiences, right? But my point is that being a peer doesn't limit your capabilities. You know,
on the contrary, it really enhances, and I think we're seeing that it's enhanced what we're doing. Yeah, I think on the contrary, really, it's been something that's worked to help us grow.
I still remember when I was working with Evelyn, this is a funny story, and our cow cart holder promoted to a different position, and I was trying to figure out who I was going to work with to take over that task. And I remember I said, you could do this. I said, I don't want to do that. I said, why don't you just give it a try? If you don't like it, I'll take it on. And look at you now, right? It's night and day, but I think that's really cool. It's really awesome. Like you really stepped up to the plate, and I think more importantly, right? Like it's funny. I was thinking right now too, as you were talking. More importantly, to serve the community, right? And what is the name of what is the name of this place or Peer Resource Center? We embodied the name Peer Resource Center. You know, we have so many resources. We know so many agencies, businesses, partners now that again, our problem is like I wish I had time to do that, but I don't. Or Evelyn will tell me, you know, you're double booking yourself that day. I'm like, oh, sorry. You know, it's just so many things going on. But I think honestly, like you and Vincent are the face of the PRC, right? And so like we wouldn't have such a strong connection with the community and people wanting to join if you guys were doing such a great job. You know, I think that speaks to like I always tell you, right, don't tell me you're busy. I know you're busy, right? And it's like that speaks to the nature of the work and how great it is, because you know, I don't have to tell you, there's always someone wanting to partner, someone trying to figure out what's going to be the next great thing from the PRC, and there's a lot of ideas. It's just having the time, figuring it out. But I think, honestly, like in my opinion, I think not just because I supervise this program, but I think this has been a great achievement. Like I can totally like take a step back and see it. We have merged now.
Yes.
We have, you know, a lot of great things.
But I agree with what Evelyn said earlier. Don't leave yourself out. I think it's a team effort.
Yeah.
You know, I think part of it has been just the coordinated activities of all of you, the support, including from yourself, and you know, taking on that role. You yourself facilitating groups. You know, you yourself, you know, engaging with our unhoused population locally and bringing somebody on board who does not want to come in here, but seeing the benefit of, all right, I'll give it a shot. But even to the next level of taking on the role of designing websites, setting up our
Podcast.
podcast,
Yeah.
you know, really taking us to other levels. And I think, you know, again, from my perspective, it's been something that, you know, should be happening. You've modeled that to your staff as well in, you know, being able to like, hey, like you were saying earlier when you first brought up the idea of being able to do this, it's like, can you do that? Yeah, I can, I definitely can. You know, it'll just take me some time. I need this. Okay, let me see how I can support you in that. But that in itself is showing to your staff, like, you're taking on roles and responsibilities that maybe traditionally peers haven't. We haven't seen them
Yeah.
doing that. But because you're doing that, that's also inspired where now we have a peer who's also taking on the role of going out, working with private businesses, getting them vendorized, developing spending plans, and going through that whole process. You know, and again, even like with Vincent, with outreaching to different populations and looking to engage with youth and looking to see what other populations out there have we not
Targeted.
gotten in contact with, and why not, and why don't we, you know? But it's being able to elevate, right? It's like that we're not because you're a peer, like this isn't just your area.
Yeah. There's
Your
other
peer,
areas of expertise.
It applies
The sky's
across
the limit.
the spectrum, you know, and we want that because it helps improve our system. And so I think across the board, with yourself included, it's been something that's really helped elevate, you know, everything that we're doing, the quality of services. And I have to give credit to like all of our other staff in the service area, from having, like you all mentioned Erica and Myra earlier, and being able to come from the admin unit and not taking that role of like, well, I'm just administration. No, like they can run groups, they can help co-facilitate groups with all of you, in working with peers and working and engaging with other parts of a community that have been underrepresented or completely unrepresented, right?
Definitely.
I mean, in working with some of the staff from our directly operated clinics who've, you know, I know you've had staff from some of the local clinics from San Antonio, from American Indian Counseling Center, who've come out and they're like, we want to start up a group like this. How did you do it? Like, you know, shadowing what you all are doing. And all of that, I think, you know, we're starting to see, and you referenced even earlier, we're learning about the vendorizing codes, but Debbie, our analyst,
Yes.
in being able to take the time also, and also kind of like,
Showing us the
yeah,
ways.
hey, so this is what you do, and like you've been designated, yeah, you can do it, you know. And I think part of that, I think it's been really working together, and like I said, it has been a culture shift for us as a whole, but it's something that we've gradually been working towards, and I think we're seeing the fruits of our labor with the communities engaged. But now we're kind of like, okay, so you know, we're an ever evolving system, so what do we do next, right? And I do think, like, I think part of it is that constant checking of the pulse, right, of the community. Like, where are we at? How are we doing? But to me, it's also like, you know, again, as you know, the manager is like, what are some of the areas? Like, what do we need? What resources do we need that we could help elevate and enhance the work that you all are doing?
Which is funny because, not to interrupt, Evelyn and I and Vincent, it's like an ongoing brainstorming session. The minute we get like a second to breathe, it's like, you know what I was thinking of? Or, you know what I was thinking of, Hyman? I'm like, yeah, let's try it. Why not? See what happens. Worst that can happen is it doesn't work. And so far, I think we're, how do you say it? We're winning. So far, we're winning. Don't try to get me with sports. I can't say anything related to sports, but yeah, I think we're doing really good. I see it. I know it's a cliche to say. My friend told me the other day. What is it? If you enjoy what you do, you never work a day of your life. But it's true. You know, we spend a lot of time together. I'm a big believer in making the work environment a good, pleasant, like, chill space. You know, and I think you know, the growth in everybody, I totally see it, and the work that we've invested in our community is coming back. Yeah.
Going back to your question, I think the biggest thing is to continue to be able to provide that support to us as the PRC. You know, if community members come with new needs, being able to provide that. I know one of the biggest needs right now that it was like wintertime was like it's getting cold in Evelyn.
Yeah.
It's getting cold, like what can we do? Working with everything, I was like, hey, can we do sweaters? The community, it's getting cold, like they need something to warm up and stuff. Being able to navigate that avenue, you know, like, hey, yes, we could, let's figure out what it is, you know, giving it to the community, giving back, being able to be like, hey, they need food, like, what can we do? True story, yesterday we went and fulfilled like an order to be able to, you know, provide some food to families. And we're like at the store and I'm like at the register, they're like, oh, you're still missing this. I was like, oh man, hold on, give me a minute. Run to the stand, grab some more stuff. And I'm like, okay. Being able to do like bags for the family, especially now as a time of need, anything helps, anything little. You know, I think more or less being open and, you know, management being open to like, what is the community in need right now? You know, what are you hearing out there, you know, like, and I think just being out there overall has been very significant, to be able to provide and meet the community needs overall, because I think previously, like, I would sit behind the desk and kind of like, I don't know what's happening or whatever. As I started working, okay, well, this is what I'm hearing. Like, how can we make this work? And then, you know, reaching out to management, like, hey, community's requesting this, like, how can we go about this? And I think it just, you know, I think it goes back a lot with having that support from management, and management listening to us. Like, it's not just coming from us as a staff, but it's coming from the community. Like, this is what is needed. I think lately it's like they want to draw, they want to do art stuff. I'm like, okay, I was like, I hear you. I'm like, let me see what I can do, and we could get like some art supplies, you know, to get you guys going and stuff like that. I know our youth group was like, hey, can we get like journaling, like colors and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, we could work with that. Like, you know, let us know what is it for us to continue with the group, and we could go from there. To be honest, a lot of the kids were like, can we get snacks, because we're gonna be coming like during lunch and this and that. We're gonna be doing group and journaling and stuff. And I'm like, hey, snacks, you know. And it's listening to them, and management, I think, being open to like, it's not coming from us, it's coming from the community. Like, what can we do to work with it? As opposed to kind of like, nope, we're not doing snacks. Oh well, they need to figure it out. And it's like, or no journal. They don't need a journal. They can use just a little paper or something.
FYI, management is right here.
Sorry about that.
No, I was gonna say, if that ever happens, I know I told him, feel free to let me know. I will help advocate and move that along as much as I possibly can.
Well, it's funny, right? Delia is our new program manager, and she's been
amazing.
Super cool.
Yes.
She's been really helpful, very supportive, even like with some of the extra stuff I've taken on. You know, but again, like, kudos to you and Delia, because again, if it wasn't for you taking a chance on what we're doing and not shutting some of the ideas down, right? I walked down Pacific, so we know some of the regulars, and, you know, being aware of some of the situations. But I remember, like,
when you brought the concept about the sweaters, that was one of the things. I was like, why haven't we done sweaters? And I remember you were saying, I don't know, but this was something Evelyn brought up. This is what the community's asking for. I was like, run with it. Go. Go. Let me know who I need to talk to. Yes, this is something we need to do.
When people see the shirts with the QR code,
oh my
they
god.
grab, oh my god, it works. Oh, you guys have a website? And I'm like, yeah. And it's, you know, it's, I think it's in layers. The plan has been in layers. And some of these things are, some things were started first, some things were started together, but we're realizing how to move the little engine that could. And I think it's really
well, like I said, I think it's an ever evolving process. You know, and again, it's impacting our system in a positive way. And you know, I was just earlier in the week at an event with one of our clinics, Royal Family Mental Health. They did a toy giveaway.
Okay.
And I was sharing with staff there that, you know, for me it was something that's like doing this type of work and being able to do this. It's personal for me, you know, and because I grew up in Boyle Heights. Shout out to Variety Boys and Girls Club. I used to go there as a
Yeah.
kid when they used to do the toy giveaways. That's where, and sometimes if I was too late in line, like my brother and I, we didn't get a toy. We got the little knitted boots with the orange and the walnuts in there.
Yeah.
That's what we got because they ran out of toys because
Yeah.
not enough were donated and stuff. But like I remember being in that position and just even getting whatever kind of toy was a big deal because for some of us that was our Christmas present.
Absolutely.
We weren't going to get anything else. And
Yeah.
it's I was sharing that with Steph, and it's just like it's the same thing. It's like I remember having dealing with having to learn to sew as a kid because if I had a sweater for school but it was torn, I had to figure out how to patch it up, how to work with it. But being able to give our community those resources, the sweaters that they need now that it's getting colder, the food, like you were saying, the food baskets. Now that people, we have so many families that are food insecure, right? And even those that can afford, sometimes the only thing they can afford is a 99-cent cheeseburger. But being able to give them healthier options as well. Being able to just do those things makes a big difference towards promoting the well-being of our community, and
Definitely.
it's huge.
Just speaking to that fact, today in the morning when we were rolling in, she was bringing in
Oh,
the
yeah.
food bags, and there was some consumers in the lobby, and the lady was like, "Can I have a bag?" And we were like, "Yeah, hold on." We were just getting situated coming in, but there's definitely a need. And you're right, like to be able to give back, I remember how I grew up, and it's a huge deal. I think for us it's become like a regular thing now. Whenever we have an event, we're always giving something away. But I think the impact that it has on the community and on their families, right? Because sometimes I remember from doing intake, I used to always tell my staff, when people cough, they're like on their last.
That's
Usually
it,
people,
yeah.
when they reach out, especially like our population, when they reach out, listen.
It
Because
takes courage to be able to
To
reach
be
out
able
and
to
ask for
reach
help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the least we can do is be responsive.
Correct.
Yeah,
And treat them with empathy.
absolutely.
Listen, don't treat them like like we're different.
Yeah.
But I think.
And the community responds well to that. I mean, at some of the events that you all have organized,
Oh my God.
it's I try to make it a point to go out, talk to the community, meet with the community, and I mean even families. I remember at one of our last events having a father who was having his kids there, and I think it was at our men's event, and one of his kids had grabbed one of the snacks or something, and he had like 4 kids with him, and one of the other kids grabbed, and he basically no, we already grabbed one. Share with your brother, and I was like, no, have him grab one. All of you grab one. And,
Everybody get one.
but to be able to like, no, I don't want to take from
From
somebody else
others,
who might need more than what, and I was like, no, this is for the community, this is for all you, but to be able to have somebody like that, and then afterwards, like that was one interaction, but then to have him come back later and be all like, dude, thanks.
Thank you.
It's like to have somebody who's in, like, I don't know this guy from anybody else, but to be able to, even for him to share, like, had been incarcerated, is struggling, and like this really gave him an opportunity to like do something fun with his kids and not be embarrassed. It kind of was like, that's the point of doing this, right?
Right now that you're saying that, it brings back so many like flashbacks of the events we've had and stuff, and how the community has responded. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen, and I've had my family participate in some of the events to come and see and stuff. My kids have seen it. Mommy, like, I want to do this. Like, look at like this, because I guess my son just had to get a haircut when they were doing the free haircuts, and then he's all like, Mommy, like, I want to do it. And I was like, what do you mean? He's all like, the guy next to me was crying about the haircut because he didn't have enough, and they wanted a haircut, and I told them that it was free, and I was just like, so you're promoting? He's all like, well, yeah, you said everything was free, Mommy, like for the community. So I was letting them know, like, they could go over there and get it, like they don't have to pay for it. So I think it was very rewarding, like even seeing like my little ones like being out there and like, hey, like this is for you guys, this is for the community and stuff. I think it was really nice. At some of like the bigger events, some of our seniors, like little groupies, came and followed us, and they came like to like our Southgate event, our Norwalk events and stuff like that. And they're like, no teníamos que comer. We didn't have nothing to eat. And you know what? Like, thank you for the burgers. And we had a burger and we had a bionico. Like, thank you. Like, it was like we actually ate. But we didn't have to eat. So, you know, we're like, hey, hopefully there's something there. I think one of the biggest things has been is that we have the resources there at our events. On top of that, we do give them a little bit back, you know, like whatever, depending on where we're at, whatever, but we're able to give back a little bit, like at least a meal or something that, you know, like you were mentioning, like if you have 4 or 5 kids, I have 5 kids myself, and boy, I'm like,
It gets expensive.
I'm like, we're eating at home, guys, like Little Caesar's pizza, because it's gonna add up.
Yeah.
But being able to be like, hey, you know what, like, you could come out and, you know, you might be able to feed your family, you know, like some tacos or some hamburgers, a little snack for the kiddos or something. I think it's very, very rewarding. I think even on some of our events that we've been able to secure some of like the toys or like a transitional object to them. And it's been rewarding because like, oh, well, they've been wanting a monito, but they couldn't. Like, here's a monito, you know? Like, I couldn't afford it because it was either we eat or buy you a mono or buy you a toy. So I think being able to see that within the community and knowing that we're behind it, you know, trying to make it happen as much as possible with, you know, the resources we have and stuff, I think it's been really rewarding and overall impacting not just California or Service Area 7, like we've had people log in from out of state, out of the country. I think the latest one was like England was like logged in, or there you were, Europe.
Yeah.
So we've had Europe, Arizona, Colombia, like Mexico, everywhere, and it's just like, it's amazing how much of an impact it's doing. Like Jaime being able to like launch us into like the Instagram, we'll do the lives as we're doing the events, you know, being able to have a podcast and being able to, for them to be able to reach out on the podcast like, hey, do you guys have a podcast? Let me see what resource I might need or what is out there for the community. I think that's been very, very helpful.
Oh, absolutely. And you see it at the events, like you were saying, your senior group. You know, I remember when you pointed out at one of the events, these are all the participants, and then watching them just interact, and they were dancing and being a part of, and you know, or even when we did the men's group, I remember he actually pointed out, I was like, hey, have you noticed there's a group of guys that are doing their own impromptu group, and I was like, what? It's like they pulled together because they needed the support at the moment, and I was like, that's amazing to have something just so organically happen, but to have people stay there consistently. You know, it's like people aren't coming in to grab a burger. That's part of what they're getting as well, but they're staying there and they're leaving with resources, and especially like you were saying, even the populations of dealing with men. It's like for me, I know because we co-facilitate the group. It's also just been remarkable to see where it was very much a stigma to talk about feelings. And then to have some of these men to come to these events, and then you see them, and they're hard. These guys are like they're not part of our system. You know, they've lived a hard life. But then to have them have that like vulnerable moment and talking about like, thank you, and this is what I like. Hearing so many stories and just being like, wow, like you got this from one of our interactions. That's awesome. Keep coming back, and you know, being able to like connect with them, and
well, the beauty of it is that they come with friends now.
They bring others.
They don't just come alone like, hey, you're coming with me, come on.
You know, like I think I mentioned to both of you too, like getting the feedback from the community, like genuine feedback. You know, like sometimes you do so many things that you forget, right? But at the end of one of our meetings, it was our SALT meeting, I told the team that someone walked up to me and she said, are you the guy who does the social media? And I said, yeah. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get a complaint. I did something wrong. And she said, dude, it is so cool. Like you post every resource, like everything in our service area. I just go on our social media and I go through the stories and you have everything there. And I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, that is why we do it, right? I'm not just like, and I've even seen the growth, like not bragging rights, but I've seen the growth of our social media in terms of who follows us.
Yeah.
I think we're over 300 followers now, which is a huge deal. Like I know some people have millions of followers, but given the fact that we are service area 7, that is a huge deal. Those are real community members, real contracted providers or directly operated. My point is that there's a lot of stuff we do that has really done really well, that has really impacted the community in a positive way. Getting the feedback, even like from our men's group, when the guys say, "Are we gonna have the group? Are we gonna have it again?" They want to know when. When are we gonna meet in person? When are we gonna get together? Can we?
Or when we took a break for the for like the holiday, and I was like, well, finally we're meeting again. Sorry.
Yeah.
But you know
It
what's really
happens.
cool, and I've said this to you, and I say it in the group, is I always get something out of the group too. It's like I'm always constantly
Yeah.
healing or like
Yeah.
checking myself. Like I connect. The other day I joined the
parent support group.
yeah, I joined the parent support group, and again, I jumped in, and they had a packed room, and the conversation was great, and because I didn't turn on my camera, no one knew who I was, so you know, not until they realized, oh, Jaime's here, and I was like, hey guys, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Evelyn asked, anybody have any questions? I'm just like,
Yeah.
you were talking about this parenting model. Do you have?
But my point is that it's been going really well. I think a lot of the work that's been happening is amazing. Like even yesterday, I joined the perinatal group for a discussion on how we can kind of figure out a way to bridge, you know, fathers and mothers together, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of trying to dream up new ways to better support our community, figuring out new concepts, right? Like I think you said this initially, not being afraid to like fail, right? If a group doesn't work out, it didn't work out.
Didn't work out.
I'm the only one who likes Lamborghinis apparently. I started that group, I know, I'm just teasing, but
Yeah.
you know.
We tried, and sometimes again, some of the groups are successful. Some of them start off super successful, but then we start to see that they start to die down. And sometimes I know we've had the discussions like, well, what's wrong? People are like something. She's like, no, that's good.
Yeah.
That means you help support them, and people got to the point where they were like,
Very
hey, I'm
supportive.
good. Yeah, I'm like, I've got my own support network now, and I don't need to necessarily go. That's ultimately the goal.
Perfect example, our youth group. You can ask Vincent. Those kids are like so grateful, so excited, and like honestly, I'm just there for support because they have their own committee within the group, and they have a hierarchy, and they're running the group, and we love it. It's been really cool to see that progression. And like again, just to be able to do so much with so little, I think goes a long way too, you know, like it's I think it speaks a lot to the work we're doing and our passion. You know, it's cool. I have a good time. And one thing that like we kind of failed to say, but you kind of said it, I find it really cool that Evelyn brings her kids to the events
Yeah.
and her kids volunteer. So like I brought my little girl to 1 or 2 events.
I brought mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Sammy will say to me, Dad, I want to do what you do when I get older. Dad, can I help you? Yeah. If whatever it is I'm doing now, she's like more, she's processing, she's thinking, and she's like, I like helping people, Dad. And I'm like, that's good. That's really cool.
Yeah. No, I mean it's the same thing. My son, he'll wear like the mental health t-shirts. When we were watching the World Series, and he actually pointed out at that Dodger Stadium there was the DMH logo. And he's like, Dad, that's from your job. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, it wasn't. This is the World Series.
Yeah.
He made me rewind it. And he's like, there you go. And I was like, I completely missed that, you know? And yeah, my daughter, you know, Alessandra will ask, Daddy, when's the next event? When are we going to help out more people? And I'm like,
God, those are my kids.
yeah. And but it is funny how, you know, again, now we're preparing the next generation.
That's cool.
I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing seeing our younger ones like want to be so involved.
Yeah.
I have a house full of teenagers, and it's funny because they're like, so when are you having the next event? And I was like, why? Well, we want to go. We like helping out. We like, you know, sharing the resources and
But
stuff
think
like
about
that.
that, like where most times you have to drag a
them
teenager
out
to
there,
something.
yes.
It's like you have a group of teenagers who are asking you, when are we doing this again? That's
It's
amazing.
True story. I recently inquired my husband's twins into my home, maybe like going on 3 years. And I was like, come on, like let's go to this event, like, check it out. No, like, I don't want to deal with that. And I'm like, no, like, you're gonna like it. Now, like I said, now it's like all of them, like, hey, Evelyn, like, are you gonna have an event, like, soon? And I'm like, oh, I was like, I'm not sure yet. I was like, maybe it's when you guys in school. Why didn't you have them when we're not in school? Or can we get out early, like, to go with you? And I was just like, no, like, you gotta wait. But I think just, you know, hearing it from them, like, of the impact and the stuff they see. Perfect example, yesterday when we went to do the grocery run for the baskets, I got home with all the stuff and my kids were like, what is this for? I was like, we're gonna do bags for the families, you know? They just said, they're like, we got this. They did an assembly line in my living room, everything. They assembled all the bags,
Awesome.
Everything having equal and stuff. And I was like, did you guys just realize you guys just did all of this? And they're like, yeah, like, can we go? I was like, oh, no. I was like, pump your brakes there. I was like, eventually we'll take you there.
Yeah.
But it makes them want to do things like this, that like they want to give back to the community and stuff.
It's your example. Just like I was giving him credit for the example and motivating and empowering you to do stuff. It's the same example you're doing with your kids.
I think it grows from everything, because like now that the holidays are here, like my daughters are like, hey mom, like I asked my team this and that, and I was like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, well, Saturday we're gonna go to a church and we're gonna feed the homeless and stuff like that. And I was like, ¿y quién me pediste permiso? She's all like, oh, well, you do it. Like, I want to do it too. So we got the team together, the softball team, and we're gonna go do it.
Awesome.
And I was just like, that is so nice. Like, and I'm just like, I didn't even know like they were doing it. And she's all like, no, yeah. She's all like, well, I told them about like the event that you guys had the other day and this and that, but then like we all got together and then the coach helped us out, so then we found a church to do it. So we're gonna go give back. I was like, okay.
Sweet, that's
so
amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like you just reminded me. You know, Saturday I'm usually with my little girl all day because my wife works on Saturdays, and we were driving to go get lunch, and off of Whittier Boulevard there was a banner with the county seal. She goes, "Look, Dad, your job." Yeah. And whenever she sees an event going on, look, Dad, shouldn't you be working? Or she says it like in a cute, funny way, because she just turned 5, so she still talks, you know, like a little kid.
Yeah.
But in a way, like she lets me know, like, aren't you connected to that somehow? And I'm like, maybe I wasn't invited, because usually, like, when the admin team has events, I'll take my little girl, especially if it's after school.
Yeah.
We go support.
Yeah.
We're there with the community. She plays around. It's a win-win, right? But I think it's really cool what you said. Like, we're teaching by example. We're modeling, right? And I think we're promoting growth and like a positive movement, right? And it's to me like like I said, sometimes it takes me a while to realize things or to process, but it's like now I can like literally take a step back and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Yeah. Like we made this happen.
Yeah.
And inspiring others.
Yeah.
You know, because I personally, again, I know, thank you for all the work you're doing, but that's one of the things that for me it does as well. It inspires me. And seeing the success and the work that you all are doing, it's because believe me, sometimes it can get a little daunting and exhausting. You know, but it is something that seeing the work that you all do, being able to reference those moments, those stories, those individuals. Yeah. It's that same thing that continues to inspire me and makes me just kind of like, okay, so maybe it was worth going through that in order to get this done. Okay, so we're gonna keep fighting the good fight and keep going forward. So no, thank you all, including Vincent behind the camera back there, for what you all are doing, because it's definitely, like I said, even for myself, I'm still learning, but it inspires me and it motivates me as well. So thank you.
And I think too, like, if I may say, we're all equally as grateful because we know that without you or the senior directors or our chief or yourself, our director and our senior directors, we wouldn't be able to do this. Like, I always joke about it, but like my biggest fear is that one day you'll give me a call or send me a message, sorry, we're canceling the podcast. You know, and I'm like, oh my goodness. But I think we're just grateful. We're just grateful to be able to do this. It also grounds us, right? Like, it also grounds us because we all still continue to go through stuff as people. Everybody does. And so just being able to connect is really cool. Connecting with the community and inspiring that growth. And like, again, getting that genuine feedback. When we have events, people will approach me and they'll say like, "Are you Evelyn's supervisor?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "We love her. She is so nice." And I'm like, "That is so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome." You know, it's like it's inspiring, like you said. But I'm just grateful. Like every day, I just think about how things have been, how they've progressed, where we could be in terms of like I've been in very horrible places now to where we are now. I think
Yeah.
this is great, and
I think so.
I look forward to the future. One of my sayings is a good magician never reveals all his tricks.
Mhm.
We're constantly brainstorming on new ideas, groups, ways to
Definitely.
provide services to the community, partnering with our directly operated clinics, supporting them at their events, and just kind of being a well-rounded PRC, which I think we are. I
Absolutely.
yeah. But I want to thank you for taking your time to be here, all of you, including
you.
Vincent. I know we all have busy schedules and meetings.
We took Evelyn away from the community, so we need to send her back out there and put out all those fires that are going on.
It's alright,
True.
we got this.
True. But yeah, no, thank you, Evelyn, for everything you do.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And again, thank you, Manny. I know you're like, no, it's not me, but it is.
Nope.
Like I think you if it
There's a
wasn't
big piece of it.
Like I said, I just get out of the way. I know my place. I'm all like, sounds good, let me move. You guys go.
if it wasn't for your support, Theon's support, Lisa's support, everybody up there, it wouldn't work out. So like we're super grateful. And again, I remember like I know we're gonna end it because we've been talking forever, but I still remember the whole conversation. We weren't supposed to have a
Okay.
PRC. We started with
Nothing. Yeah.
nothing, and look at we made this, which once seemed like a wacky idea, right? What do you mean you're out in the field? What do you mean? Now all our groups are out in the field. The park loves
Yes.
us. Our partnerships with Parks and Rec, our partnerships with the senior centers, the different senior centers.
The different clinics.
The
I think everything overall, the schools, just seeking out different departments now,
Yeah.
seeking out, be like, this is free, are you sure? Like, can they go? It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
What was it? The police department the other day in Huntington Park.
Oh yeah, in Bell, they
Yeah,
came over to one of our clergy breakfasts, so they came over and they were there as well, and they were very supportive and
That's
everything.
awesome.
So
They were like, "You do what? You have what? Excuse me, what's
Yeah.
your name?"
I know it's funny. I was like, how much I like it? You can spend it. So then they like were scanning the QR code, like, oh, these are all the services Service Area has. Yep. I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
there you go.
And you said this is our 25th episode, right?
Yes, it is our 25th.
25, wow.
That's
25.
Oh, before we forget, it is December, and so happy holidays to everybody, right?
Absolutely.
Happy holidays.
Looking
Yeah.
forward to the new year.
Definitely.
A lot of great things to come.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
A lot of good things for this new year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know my little girl, but shout out to Samantha. When she gets older, she's gonna hate me. She just turned 5. Actually, on Tuesday, she turned 5 years old.
Aw.
But yeah, this episode goes out to everybody who's seeking resources or services. Look for us on social media.
Absolutely.
You can find us on Instagram. It's a hashtag or at LACDMHSA7. And we are on YouTube, of course, where you're watching this podcast. Look for our website. There's a lot of cool new features coming to our website. I'm not allowed to talk about yet. I took the oath. I'm not allowed to say. But yeah, thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Manny.
Thank you.
Vincent, for being executive producer today. Your next buddy. But yeah, I'm just grateful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
And happy holidays.